Hey, listen, we've all got routines. Sometimes those are sometimes called vices. We just call them routines. If you need to make preventative health part of your routine, and if you want to get active, stay active, the kinds of devices you need, they have at our friends over at Chirp. Whether we're talking about trigger point rollouts, foam rollouts, I take my trigger point rollout with me, rolling to make sure that that you're ready to go and your body's warmed up before you push it. That's vital. The rolling power massager, had that with me in Minot over the weekend, speaking at the North Dakota State GOP convention. Take that with me on the road wherever I go. When you come back home, you can get the Chirp Contour for decompression and massage, spinal decompression, soothing massage, right there like you'd have to go to a clinic and get right there in your own home. They've got this and more. And these are the kinds of things that if you incorporate them into your life, greatly reduce. Listen, we all die. 100% death rate every time you check, right? As I always say. But as much as possible, greatly reduces the risk of injury so we can get and stay active longer than our ancestors could, all right? GoChirp.com/Steve is where you want to go and take advantage of $50 off when you're there. Go Chirp, like a birdie chirp, CHIRP. GoChirp.com/Steve. Get $50 off there at GoChirp.com/Steve. Now let's welcome in our good friend Bob Vanderplots, who has, he's been put in isolation.
I'm not wearing a mask.
You're not, no. And he had some sick grandkids to take care of over the weekend. Needless to say, they ended up passing it on to him. Now, he's feeling great today, but just to make sure he didn't take the risk of coming in and polluting our office and his own, he's working from home today, all right? In other words, didn't need a shutdown order, didn't need a stay-at-home order, didn't need to be told to wear a mask, didn't have to be told to self-isolate. He just recognized, hey, I've been exposed to symptoms. I've had some symptoms myself. I should maybe stay home until symptoms are no longer present so I don't risk spreading this to other people. You know, the way that we lived for thousands of years. So congrats to you, Bob. Too bad you weren't making COVID policy. How are you?
Yeah, the sick quarantining themselves, making sure we don't get the healthy sick.
Yes.
I'm telling you, this is a 12-hour flu bug that our granddaughter had, that I got, now my wife has. Tell you what, nothing to do with it. It doesn't last long, but you want nothing to do with it. So I love you guys that much. I'm staying away from you.
Well, good. And we love you even more that you are staying away from us. So thank you very much for that.
Most people do.
So your organization was out in the field here in Iowa polling, looking at our governor's race. We're going to get to that analysis and maybe what it says about the broader electorate here in the 2026 cycle as well. But part of the polling that you guys did, and I want to lead off with this for our national audience, is you guys wanted to get an idea of where Iowans were at in the presidential process. In particular, the two names for now that everybody agrees are the absolute front runners. They were way ahead in the CPAC straw poll over the weekend in Vance and Rubio. So you guys, and the way I like it is that you guys asked this open-ended.
We did.
All right. You did not. So it wasn't, hey, of these 7 candidates, who do you like? It was open-ended. So you didn't necessarily, so I misspoke earlier. I want to correct that. I said earlier you guys only asked about Vance and Rubio. That is not true. It was open-ended, and those were the only 2 names that really came up in critical mass whatsoever. And so, number one, what does that tell you about where Iowans are very early in the process? But this is the process by this time next year will be in full gear, okay? And then secondly, what does it tell you given the results of what they think of J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, and what were those results?
Well, I think the question I get all the time, Steve, you get all the time from national media is, who do people like in 2028? And so we thought, why not ask our base, who do you like in 2028? And we didn't want to guide them about this is who you should like or this is who you should be thinking about. It was just very open-ended. And I got to tell you, it wasn't really surprising, but somewhat stunning that J.D. Vance came out just under 50% of the respondents said J.D. Vance. I think it was just like 46.8% percent say J.D. Vance. And what that told us is they see J.D. Vance being the apprentice to Donald Trump. They want to continue on with the Trump administration. They see JD the best position to be able to do that. So 46.8. But then right below him, well, probably not right below, but below him, the most significant one was Marco Rubio, 15.8 as well. So just at 16%. And I think what they're seeing there is that probably Marco's probably not going to be a candidate for president. He has said, this is JD's. If JD wants it, I'm going to stay out of it. But they're also watching him on the international stage and how he's dealing with a lot of these things. They see him as somebody who's a real leader. But I've had several people talk to me and say, you know what? In 2016, when Marco Rubio was making his case to Iowans to be president in the 2016 election, they're like, where was this Marco Rubio?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is a Marco Rubio they could get behind. So while it's way, 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 way too early, JD Vance, Marco Rubio, in a way distant third, all the way down to 2%, Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida.
We were talking right before you came on, so you probably didn't get a chance to hear it, that Trump has kind of given each of these two capos, if you will, the face of important parts of the coalition, right? So Rubio is the face right now of the foreign policy part. And since Trump will never be on the ballot again, he's going to, the high risk, high reward of Operation Epic Fury, he's going to absolve the long-term political consequences for this way more than Donald Trump ever will, right? And then and then on the domestic front though, I mean, I think all of us, and I said this earlier, everybody who, except for whoever still is reading National Review, all right? Everybody else on the right, greatest disappointment of the Trump era has been we haven't punished any of our enemies, any of the people that did coups, tried to destroy America. No one's faced any accountability. Well, that's the very hot potato that Trump handed over to J.D. Vance, or at least a variation of it, right? And so you're gonna say all these things about Ilhan Omar, and then she just kind of skates, and she's still trolling us on, MSNB, whatever that station will be called then, on, the night before the caucuses, right? There's some political liability there. And so this will be fascinating to watch this play out between these two individuals over the course of the next 12 to 18 months, because Rubio has to show that he can keep Trump's MAGA coalition together because he's not native to it. And Vance needs to show that he's got the gift of gab. No one messages better than J.D. Vance.
You bet.
But he's got to show that he can take talking point from concept to policy and action, that he can govern and lead, right? He's not really had any experience doing that. And so I think it'll be fascinating to watch how this plays out over the course of this campaign from this time forward.
Well, there's no doubt. These are the two hot potatoes. And Trump has had a history of doing this. When you take a look at even Mike Pence, Mike Pence, he gave COVID to. Not gave COVID, you know what I'm saying, but the leadership for COVID.
You might have had it right the first time, but go ahead.
Yeah,
yes.
Mike Pence's deal. And so now with Marco Rubio, hey, listen, this Iran, these conflicts that we're in type thing, this is your baby. And I think Marco's doing a really good job at messaging right now. Now, can he keep the mega base together when you've got the Candace Owens and you got the Tucker Carlsons on the far right, Steve Bannon and others, voicing their opinion on it? And then J.D. Vance, the one thing I hear all the time, Steve, and you hear as well, why aren't people going to jail? We said we were going to prosecute some of these people, and we're not seeing it. So there's disappointment on the Epstein file. There's disappointment on the J6. There's disappointment on all these other things. Like, why aren't we actually taking the talking point and put it into action? And he's saying, J.D., that's yours now.
So the reason you asked this question is because you guys, just as we talked about last week, you guys as an organization for the first time ever are getting full-fledged into a governor's race in our state. And so you guys...
we are. And you saw it, Steve. We saw it. There's so much at stake.
Right.
Politico just ran a huge story on Rob Sand, who's going to be the Democrat nominee in the state of Iowa, who touts himself as a churchgoer, a hunter, the taxpayers' watchdog, all Republican-type points. And yet he is as progressive as Gavin Newsom and as Tim Walz.
Yeah, think of, for people in our audience who've not seen a lot of Rob Sand, and I'm guessing that's going to be a lot of our audience.
Sure.
Think of a taller and far less retarded version of Tim Walz, but it's the exact same messaging of Walz, just less retarded and taller.
Without question. But here's what I'll say to your audience, Steve. If Rob Sand wins the governorship in November, you're going to hear a lot about Rob Sand.
Correct.
He's already being thrust onto the national spotlight. Like, here's the guy that can win for Democrats. This is the playbook for winning for Democrats. So there's a lot of national interest in Rob Sand already. That's why he's raised 4 or 5 times the money of the leading Republican candidate right now. And so we thought, Rob Sand, we are one state away from being Tim Walz of being Minnesota. We need to choose and choose well. And so we decided, our board decided, unprecedented, Let's get involved in this governor's primary. And we're getting behind Adam Steen. And after we made that decision, I said right away to our team, the only way we can really go forward now is find out where are we at after we made this decision, meaning where are gains to be made to see if we can get Adam Steen actually over the finish line in the
Okay.
primary field to take on Rob Sand.
All right. So last June, the presumed frontrunner in this race, Congressman Randy Feenstra, put out a poll that showed him at 42%. He promoted this poll. It was last June. I think that's really the last scientific poll of this entire primary that has gotten any media coverage at all. Last June. So,
Yeah,
so
and it
last
was the
June.
last release poll, Steve.
Yeah, at least that we've seen. Okay. Yes.
Because had Randy's numbers, and I want to be clear, this is not against Randy Feenstra. I'm just saying the way it is. If his and his campaign's numbers weren't 42%, but if they're growing to 44%, 46%, 48%, he'd keep releasing that of saying, look at the momentum of the campaign. Not only are we raising the most money, we're spending the most money, and it's showing in traction for me as a candidate. That has not happened. That has not translated how many hundreds of thousands to millions I've put into this campaign already. It has not translated into more votes.
So what did your poll show then? So this would be the first publicly released poll since last June when Randy had 42. Where is he at in your poll?
Well, there's a couple things I want to highlight, Stephen. I want to go, and I tell my team all the time, I think I get tired of hearing it. The only thing I have to base it on is experience. And so when I ran for governor in 2010, the primary in June 2010, there's a poll released in July of 2009. So about a year out. And that poll, about a year out, July 2009, I was at 48% of the Republican electorate. The next was undecided at 23%. And then the Speaker of the House was 14%, and then went down from there. But 23% were undecided. We are now 60 some days away from a June 2 primary. And right now, our poll shows that over 46% of those polled are still undecided, which means that your presumed frontrunner in Randy Feenstra is not closing the deal. So that's a huge danger sign for candidate Feenstra. It's a huge opportunity sign for the rest of the field. If you look at the rest of the field, so Randy right now, he's under the threshold as well. He's under 35%. I think he's at 33.5% in our poll. If he stays under 35%, this is going to go to convention. The best predictor at a convention in Iowa is what happened at the Iowa caucuses this year. In the Iowa caucuses this year, when they did a straw poll, Adam Steen ran away with that at 44%, and I believe Randy Feenstra was third or fourth in that poll. So that would say if it stays underneath that 35%, Adam Steen will be your nominee at convention. That said, you take a look at the other candidates. How did they poll? Adam Steen was the only other one in double digits. He was just under 11%, I think at 10.5%. And then it went completely down to 3%, 2%, basically non-registering for the other three candidates. So what that tells you is this is a two-person race. This is Adam Steen, Randy Feenstra. And so if you're okay with Randy Feenstra, vote for Feenstra, or vote for one of the other candidates not named Adam Steen. But if you want to have a nominee not named Randy Feenstra, you want to coalesce at this time with the family leader, with our team, with our board, and get around Adam Steen because we believe he's not only the best position to win, we believe he's the best position to lead on day one.
All right. I have 3 minutes, but I have two questions our audience needs to hear your answer to. Okay. Number one, how much is Randy Feenstra being bogged down by being Congressman Randy Feenstra? Because he's essentially lost support since last June, is what your poll is showing.
I think there's two things. One is you're right, a congressman. And I really do believe people are taking a new look at, congressmen don't become governor in Iowa. It just doesn't happen. We've tried it over and over and over again, and that gave you Tom Vilsack, it gave you Chet Culver, and I'm quite sure it's going to give you Rob Sand if we go down that pathway again. The other thing, though, I used to tell my business students all the time, you do not get a second opportunity to make a first impression. Randy Feenstra, and you've talked about it on your show before, Steve, his first impression to the base was, I'm not going to you guys. I'm not going to the Family Leadership Summit. I'm not going to go to the Moms for Liberty debate. I'm not going to go to any MAGA events.
So I'm going to run away from the base, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I run away. And I'm telling you, I think he's going to pay a price there. So what I believe those 46% are probably making up their mind on Randy Feenstra. He's not their guy. They got to now make up their mind on who is their guy. If they coalesce, you'll see somebody beat Randy Feenstra in the primary and go over 35%.
All right, I've got 90 seconds, but one of our candidates, Zach Lane, has taken an interesting strategy because we're all trying to figure out where do we go to reach our people, right? Because our people are so spread out. So he's been on both Tucker Carlson and now about 2 weeks ago, he was on Sean Ryan last week, right? These are two of the biggest podcasts in America. Sean's is actually much bigger than Tucker's these days. Does that reaching primary voters in Iowa, according to your poll? I'm just fascinated to see where people are at.
Our poll does not show that, and it would show that because he was on Tucker Carlson more than 2 weeks ago, so our poll would have picked that up.
Mm-hmm.
What surprised me about Zach Lane, because I think Zach's a compelling candidate, but Eddie Andrews was third, I believe, like at 3 point whatever percent, and then Zach Lane was at 2.9%, and then Brad Sherman down at 2.1%. I thought Zach Lane would have more percentage than what he has right now. But I think, again, what it shows is that it's becoming a two-person race. It's Steen versus Feenstra, and you got 46% undecided. If I'm Adam Steen, I'm really excited about that number. If I'm Randy Feenstra, I've got warning signs about that number.
Good to see you, brother. Thank you. Get better.
You bet. God bless.
God bless. One of the real challenges we are having is, where do we go to reach our audience? Because remember what I said a few weeks ago. It's never been easier to get an audience of 100,000 people on the right. It's never been harder to get an audience of 1 million. And we're so spread out, right? Okay. And so I was very fascinated to see that those are big time lands. I mean, I would imagine we've never, in Iowa, has never been on two shows that big, like that wasn't like a governor, like in the history of the state of Iowa.
I completely agree. Yeah.
All right. And so it wasn't like a governor, a senator, or a member of Congress, right?
Right.
So I would be, because maybe our people are watching national stuff now, but their polling showed it didn't register with primary voters at all. I don't even know where to tell candidates around the country to go to reach our base. I don't know where they're at. And at least in a I mean, they're in a lot of places, but are they, you're going to have to probably do a lot more interviews and stuff than you ever thought you had to do before, maybe. I don't know.
Listen, I'm keeping this simple. If the goal of everybody involved is to be the alternative to Randy Feenstra, results matter. You did not get those results, Zach Lane. Steen keeps getting them over and over and over again. If Steen was this in reversed and I was supporting Steen, I would tell Steen to get out right now. You're not the guy. If that's the goal and you're honest about that, everybody needs to be exiting stage left except for Adam Steen right now.
I think Iowa's unique. It's a double whammy. We still demand the retail politics, the 99 county tour, while at the same time, we still have to go viral, produce viral content for the campaign. So that's another challenge.
Hour 2 is next.